Hi, students. I just wanted to make a little video to go through this module I put up on our Canvas page about how to vote. I'm sure some of you have voted before, but just in case you haven't or you don't remember what the process is like, all I did was put together some links and other information that I might that I thought might be helpful to you as you think about voting. And before I start, I just want to say a little bit about why I hope you will vote. I know not all of you can vote, but even if you can't, there are ways for you to get involved in the whole election process. So I'll talk about that later. But for those of you who can, who are eligible to vote, even if you're not registered right now, you can still register. Um, I want to just say a few words about why I really think it's a good idea to vote. One thing is I think voting really helps you get more engaged in the local and national news. Um, Once you've voted for a candidate or for several candidates or for a particular bond measure or a state proposition, that gives you a context when you listen to the news. You're more personally engaged. It's really great when you vote for a candidate and then you see them doing things that you think are really great. You feel part of that success and part of that accomplishment. And also, when you listen to a candidate, uh, I think that if you see what they're doing and you like it, you can say, I'm part of that. If you don't like what they're doing, you can think, oh, okay, next time I'm going to keep this in mind. I don't really like what they're doing. So it's really a great way to connect with your community and feel part of it. So that's one reason I think it's really great to vote. And in the process of following somebody you voted for, um, you learn more about your community and you get to be a more educated citizen, and then you're a more educated voter next time. So, like anything else, we all get better at voting as we go along. And there's real value in just voting to learn the process, even if you're sure not every selection you make is perfect. And we'll talk about that later. But one thing I wanted to show you, since a lot of you are young, meaning between 18 and 29, this is a chart that shows the percentage, the age breakdown for voters in the 2020, 2022, and 2024 election. And right now it's just showing us who's voted early in 2024, which is 39 million people. It's almost, I think it's about a fourth of the number of people who voted in the 2022 election. I can't remember. I'm not positive. But I want you to just notice that 75% of the voters who have voted so far are above 50 years old. And the Texas Senate candidate, one of the people running for the Senate in Texas, Colin Allred, says to young people, you wouldn't let your grandparents pick your playlist. Why would you let them pick your leaders? And it's really important to notice that voters between 18 and 29 only make up about 7% of voters in this election so far. And that's one of the reasons that a lot of times young people say, oh, they don't care about my concerns. They don't care about making college cheaper. They don't care about maybe reproductive choice. These are things that maybe matter to me, but my leaders don't care. There may be some truth to that because the leaders, when they're deciding on how to vote in a bill in Congress, they're recognizing that 75% of voters are over 50. So they may well be biased towards the concerns of people over 50. That's a real danger. So if you want your concerns to be heard, you guys got to show up at the polls. When this number gets bigger, your concerns will matter more to legislators. It's not completely fair, but it is unfortunately what happens. Also, in the module that I posted on our Canvas page, I have a page called Why Should I Even Vote? And I think these are two really good videos that give a really good synopsis of some really good reasons to vote. So I'll let you check those out. The first thing you need to do if you want to vote is register or double check your registration. There's a link here that will show you how to do that. Keep in mind too, in California, we're very lucky. You can register on election day. What they'll do is they'll take your registration and then they'll give you what they call a provisional ballot. That just means they're not going to count your vote until they've checked that everything on your registration form is correct. But then you'll get a text message or an email that confirms your vote has been counted once they've checked that information. So you have right up until election day. You can vote on you can register on election day. You could go, we have a vote center at GCC all this week. You could go register and vote right there. So registration should not be an obstacle for you if you're eligible to vote. What can be kind of overwhelming to a lot of voters is the ballot, because you may be voting on a lot of things that you're very unfamiliar with. But fortunately, you can see a sample ballot before you get to the polls. If you are already registered to vote, you should have gotten a sample ballot in the mail, a paper sample ballot. That's what I use. I fill in the paper sample ballot and take it with me to the polls. There's also something called an interactive sample ballot online. And all you need to do, you can fill it out and use it to vote if you want. I just use it, or I'm showing it to you basically to show you how to find out what you're going to be voting on. And I'm going to just, I'm not going to make any selections. I just want to see what my ballot looks like. So my ballot, by the way, is probably going to be, it may be different from your ballot. I live in Highland Park. If you live in Glendale, your ballot will be different. If you live in Burbank, your ballot will be different. If you live in Eagle Rock, your ballot will be different. But this is my ballot. And it starts off with candidates for the Los Angeles Community College District, members of the state assembly. And when I click right here, I can see who I'm voting for my state assembly. I'm in the 52nd district. I'm going to be choosing between Jessica Caloza and Frankie Carrillo. They ran against a bunch of other people in the primary, and they're the last two. They got the most votes, so they're in a runoff. They're going to vote. Then I'm going to get to vote for my representative in the House of Representatives in DC. Jimmy Gomez is my current guy. There's a guy challenging him, David Kim. If you're in Glendale, you're going to have different state representatives. I should mention, if you're in Glendale, there is something called Measure GCC this year, which gives you a chance to vote for or against a bond that would pay for improvements to our campus. So you can think about what you want to do with that. And I've got a little bit more information on that in later on in this in the module. Then there are all these city elections, different measures. If I click right here, I can see what the measure says, and I can vote yes or no on it. This is what I'm going to do when I get into the ballot box, but just what I'm seeing now is just the kind of stuff I'm going to be asked to vote for. A bunch of judges, County Measure G, all these different county measures, which I can read here, but I'm going to show you later on how to get more information about them. So I can see, and then right at the bottom, I'm going to get to vote for my senator and president and vice president. So that's all here. So that's what you can do to just kind of get your list of what you're going to be voting for, which is a good thing to know, obviously. Okay. And then if you want to use that interactive sample ballot, mark your selections. There's a way you can mark your selections. They give you a QR code, and when you go into the polling place, they just scan the QR code and you've voted. I think that's how it works, but if I have that wrong, in any case, you should watch this video. It'll show you exactly how it works. Okay, so that's going to tell you what's going to be on your ballot. And your head might explode. You might be like, oh my God, how the heck do I know how to vote on any of these things? That's the hardest part. Okay, so there are lots of different ways you can figure out how to vote on certain things. One thing you can do is you can look for voter guides. I've only included one here, but I think it's a really good one. It's the LAist, our local public radio station, has a guide, and they call it their voter game plan. And they go through each of the different races. I'm voting for LA District Attorney, things like that. And then, I mean, so these are all the things you might be voting on. We're all going to be voting on a bunch of state propositions. LAist had what they called a ballot cram session, where they went through the whole ballot and they had people talk about the sort of pros and cons of the different state propositions, the different positions of candidates for like district attorney. And they did it all, I think, in like an hour and 15 minutes. It looks like an hour 12 here. So if you want to play that video with your sample ballot out, you could go through it. And it may help you figure out how to vote. They also have some great voter resources here. What is a bond? You know, how do judges get rated? How could I work at the polls? They actually have a really great list of voting guides here, so you might check those out. That's cool. So you could look at all those. They also, if you go like Proposition 2, I think is for renovations to the schools. And they go into how to understand the proposition. And then they play the little clip from the cram session. It looks like they spent about 3 minutes and 36 seconds talking about this one proposition, and you can listen to what they said about it and then mark your ballot. So all the state propositions are mentioned here. County measures, they explain all of those. So there's just a ton of really good information there too. Another way to decide how to vote is to look at endorsements. Endorsements are just recommendations from particular organizations or people saying, you know, we think if you support our organization, you should vote for this person or this proposition or that proposition. So for example, probably the Democratic presidential candidate, Kamala Harris, probably supports the Democratic candidates on the California ballot. I can't think right off, you know, the top of my head what she's personally endorsed. Donald Trump, the Republican candidate, has probably endorsed a lot of Republican candidates in California. But also the Los Angeles Times makes endorsements. They write about the different things on the ballot, and then their editorial board decides how they think people should vote. For example, on Proposition 2, they say yes. Now, I opened this up because I have an LA Times subscription. It is possible you won't be able to get into the LA Times endorsements. However, you can find them through the GCC library, and you could ask a librarian to help you figure out how to do that. But if you do have a subscription, or your parents do, you can go in here and you can read their reason for the position they advocate, for their endorsement. Sometimes I read their endorsement and I disagree and I vote a different way from them, but I always learn a lot from the LA Times endorsements, because the people writing for the LA Times spend so much time writing and thinking about local issues all year that they are really good. They are really good resources for during an election. They just have a lot of information. So I really like the LA Times endorsements. I always find them helpful, even if I don't agree. Also, the Democratic Party and the Republican Party also make endorsements. So if you know you're a Democrat or you know you're a Republican, you can look at their endorsements and let that guide you. If you know you feel very strongly about gun rights and you're a member of the National Rifle Association, you could look for the NRA's endorsements. If you feel very strongly about reproductive freedom, you could look at Planned Parenthood's endorsements. Those are all organizations that probably are endorsing particular candidates. If you live in Glendale, you'll have a chance to vote on Measure GCC. If you click on this link, you can see what it what it means to vote for or against it. So you can see that there. And then if you don't know if you're Republican or Democrat, you can take this little political typology quiz. If you end up at the end of the quiz, they'll place you more on the left or on the right on a spectrum. If you're more towards the left, you're probably a Democrat. If you're more towards the right, you're probably a Republican. So that may be interesting for you. If you're watching national races like the presidential race, you can use fact-checking sites to help you figure out what's true or not. I actually realized the other day when I was looking at this that it actually has a California section. So if you go down to the bottom, they have a lot of things that have to do with the national race, but I think I saw, if you scroll down, that there's also a state section. Now I'm going to have to see where I saw it. People offices state edition. So they do have a California edition. So you can look at the claims people are making online or claims candidates are making, and whether PolitiFact checks them out and just lets you know if they're true or not. So that's a handy way. It can be really overwhelming sometimes when you're hearing different things from different sides. PolitiFact is neutral. They just check the facts and let you know what they found. So that's a really handy tool to have. And just a reminder, if you decide that if you are overwhelmed and you feel like, I don't know, oh, I should have pointed out to you, the LA Times makes recommendations on judges. The Democratic and Republican parties do too. So you should be able to find endorsements for races like that. But if you feel like, I don't really get these other things on the ballot, I don't have any opinion about them, I feel really uncomfortable voting for judges when I really don't know who I should be voting for, you can always just go into the booth and vote for president if you want, or president and senator, or president and your state representative, whatever. It's fine. You're just learning the process. Every time you go to vote, you learn a little bit more about the process. So if that's how you want to start, that's a fine way to start. If you want to take more time, sit down, look at all the endorsements, read all the propositions, think about them, and make the best decision you can. That's great too. So you have a choice. Uh, you can vote by mail or in person, but I really encourage you to vote early. In California, we always get, those of us who are registered to vote, we get a ballot in the mail. If you've gotten your ballot in the mail, you can fill it out and mail it in today, if you know how you want to vote. I always like going in person. I often like bringing my daughter. I think it's really nice if you bring, a younger cousin or a younger brother and sister. It's really great for kids to see how the process works. It's kind of exciting for them to be standing with you while you fill out the ballot. We're also very lucky in California. In some states, you can only vote in one location. You can vote at any vote center near you, and there's a link here that shows you how to find a vote center near you. I know one vote center near you is in the GCC Student Center. We have a vote center, so you can vote there all this week, right up till November 5th. And then if you want to see how to vote on the ballot marking devices, you can watch this video. This is a video from 2020, but they work pretty much the same way. And if you have any trouble on the ballot, you're not sure you're doing it right, that's what the poll workers are there for. I think the first time, maybe in 2020, there was some little thing that confused me, and I just asked a poll worker. They were super happy to help me out. So don't be shy. I like to go, but some people like to do it by mail. You can also you can fill out the ballot you got in the mail and just take it to a vote center and give it to somebody there. The one thing I would say is I would not leave it till the very last minute, till November 5th, because I think there will probably be long lines on November 5th. It's great. I usually go on a Sunday. I'm in and out in 5 minutes. It's super easy. And you don't want to take a chance that on November 5th, something comes up and you can't get there. You want to make sure you get your vote in. And here's another, this is probably also kind of an old video too, maybe not, maybe this is from this year. Yeah, this is from this year about how to vote in LA County. That's from the LA Times, so I'm not sure it'll open for you, but there's lots of information out there about how to vote. If you can't vote, I'd think about things you can do. You can talk to your friends about particular candidates you support or about state propositions you support. You can show your friends how to vote, those of your friends who are eligible. You can volunteer. There's a link here to volunteering with Rock the Vote. You can phone bank for candidates or propositions you really believe in. Lots of things you can do besides vote. And sometimes making 50 phone calls, has an even greater impact than one vote. So keep that in mind. And finally, please share this information. Encourage your friends to vote and show them how you did it. A lot of people want to vote. They just don't know all the steps involved. They feel intimidated by it. And the more you can, help them see that it's not that complicated, the better. So I really hope you'll consider voting in this election. I really do believe your vote is your voice, and it's we're incredibly lucky to live where we live and to have the freedom to vote and to have our voices heard. So please take advantage of that privilege.